speak for us. Really glad to have him here. Give a little longer introduction. I don't know Hal very well. I know him in passing kind of, but I've got a lot of admiration for him because he's not a Johnny-come-lately snake oil salesman. All y'all in this business know what I'm talking about. But he coached high school ball here in Texas, played over Carlton, didn't he?
Yeah.
Played ball over Carlton State, which that starts you out a little behind the guys that played in Texas. You got to work your way up a little further. Was successful at high school here in Texas, and then went to Iowa Wesleyan, wherever that's at. Was successful at Valdosta. You got a guy working up through the ranks, and you got one of the big-time jobs as a small-time college coach, and he's been real successful at it. He's getting famous. They pay him a bunch of damn money now. So he kind of gives motivation for the rest of us over there. Hal Mumme.
That's the best introduction I've had all year. I appreciate it. I think they come from Coach K. I'll tell you what, guys, what have I got here? An hour or so?
Got an hour and a half.
Hour and a half, okay. Whatever y'all want. I don't know, I really like this format. This is the first time I've actually attended this thing, but we've always tried to send somebody, and I think it's a great idea. I see a lot of compadres here. We're kind of all kindred spirits in this deal. I thought I'd take you through some of the things, some ideas, just to tell you a little bit about our offense first and how we got it started. And then I've got our 3 best plays from this year, our 3 best pass plays, and we can go through that. Y'all have questions, just stop me anytime, and I'll just do the best I can to coach you up on it right there. I don't know, I just thought I'd show you a little comparison here. Here's our quarterback since 1992, starting, where's Hatcher at? Oh, there he is, okay. This is kind of like a who worked for Hugh Bailey convention right here, isn't it? Starting with Hatcher here in 1992, you can kind of see the percentage in yards and going all the way up here to Bonner, who was our quarterback this year at Kentucky. And of course Tim Couch is right here, Funderburg. You know, if you look at this, we've always been able to kind of be around 65 to 70% on our completion percentage. And we've always been able to throw for 3,000 yards pretty much, except for Hatcher. He was kind of underachiever. But that's just some things I think are important in our offense. We've got to be able to keep the ball in play. And we tell them it's kind of like in basketball. You know, you don't want to turn the ball over a whole bunch. We want to keep the ball alive. Always get it in somebody's hands. So we stress that with our quarterbacks a whole bunch. We spend an awful lot of time on mechanics and fundamentals, and I'm not going to get into that unless y'all want to later on. But we just spend a lot of time in the off season with those guys working drops, keeping the ball up, pocket feet, various things like that, so that we can keep the ball alive on each play. I think that, probably the thing we didn't, this year we had kind of a task in front of us. We lost Couch, you came out early, and we lost 9 other starters. Guy and I were counting it up on the way down here today. In fact, this is Guy Morrison, y'all have maybe our offensive line coach. We had the top offense in the SEC in '98, and we lost 9 out of 11 starters. And Coach Leach went to Oklahoma, lost some coaches. So anyway, we kind of had to start over this past year. Dusty Bonner, we thought, did a pretty good job. We probably didn't throw the ball quite as much as we should have, and that's why our running game wasn't worth the shit this year. Everybody's around Lexington now, they're trying to figure out why, you need to run it more, you need to run it harder, all that kind of stuff. I keep telling them the reason we didn't run it good is because we didn't throw it enough. And so we're going to change that this year. We're going to get these attempts back up here in the 500s where they ought to be for us, and that'll open up the running game. But I got a little bit conservative this year because we had a lot of young kids. Coach Morris had, I guess, one true freshman. We had the youngest player in the nation starting left guard. He didn't turn 18 until 2 weeks after the Tennessee game, which was our last game. We had 3 sophomores. We had 1 junior. So our O-line was all new. Our receivers were all new. And the only 2 guys we had back were the 2 running backs. And so we pretty much had to start over. But we still managed to have a pretty decent year. That led to conference. That led the conference. We led the conference in passing efficiency. We had the most touchdown passes. Our quarterback had the highest rating in the SEC. The thing that I was really proud of more than anything else, though, was this. And this is good because we're all kind of in the same mind around here. You hear this all the time from people that are naysayers that you can't score when you get in the red zone. Well, there's where Kentucky, we were number 1 in the conference in the red zone, and ever since we've been in Kentucky, we've either been 1 or 2. We're inside the 20 46 times this year. We scored 29 touchdowns, which was 63%, and we kicked 11 field goals. So we had a pretty decent year there. So I thought we did some good things. We certainly could build on it. We got most of our guys back this year, so we are really looking forward to this spring and kind of not feeling our way around so much like we did last year. Here's a little overhead on the 3 plays I'm going to talk about today. And basically everything we've done over the years has come from BYU. I mean, Coach Edwards back in the mid-'70s decided to start throwing the ball, and that's when I started coaching here in Texas high schools, and I wanted to throw the ball, and so I just started kind of paying attention to them. And then I was fortunate enough to go to UTEP for a few years and be the offensive coordinator. That was back in the early 80s, and got to play through the schedule with BYU, and I would always take their old 16 millimeter films and cut them up and learn all I could about it. And then after 4 years of doing that, we got fired, which was the best thing ever happened to me, and I got the head job down here in Central Texas at Coppers Cove. And so Mike Major and I just started, our defensive coordinator, he and I just started getting in the car all the time and driving to BYU about twice a year. And Claude Bassett, who's our recruiting coordinator, most of you guys know Claude, he was on the staff there then. He'd get the keys to the film room and give them to me, and we'd stay in that little hotel right off their campus there, and we'd drive over there in the morning and watch film, and then we'd go out and watch them practice, and we'd come back at night and spend all night watching practice. I think at one point there I'd seen for about 6 or 8 years there, I'd seen every game Lavelle had ever coached up till about 5 years ago. But anyway, most of what we have is just basically that old offense that Doug Scoville put together back in the late 70s when they had McMahon and Steve Young and all those guys. And so this first one up here, that's Y Cross. That's our name for Y Cross, and that's our, you can see the 98 version of it right here, and you can see the 99 version of it right here. Pretty similar in what we do, and it's, if you go back over all the way to the high school ranks in 1986, it carries over. The next one is what we call, this is Y corner right here, and this is Y stick. And most of y'all are probably running a version of this. We had a great tight end this year, a kid named James Whalens, who was a walk-on kid for us 3 years ago, and he came as a kind of an oversized wide receiver. He was about 6'4", and he weighed about 200 pounds, and he could run 4.6. And he kind of grew into a tight end. We moved him inside after his first year, and he had a pretty decent junior year, and then this year he was everybody's All-American. He was the first, he did something Couch did. He made the AP All-American team. He's the first AP All-American Kentucky's had since Art Steele back in the 70s. And he just had a tremendous year. He caught around 100 balls, right at 100 balls. And these two routes right here were really his deal. And if you got a guy that can catch the ball and he's a tough receiver, it doesn't necessarily have to be an overpowering type tight end, but if he's just a good body control guy and got pretty decent foot speed, these 3 plays right here in conjunction are really something that'll, you can really give people fits. And as I said when I started out, we lost all of our receivers from the year before, and so we were pretty much starting over out there. We weren't very effective to begin with at wide receiver this year. And then as the season went on, the guys that came on and played all got hurt. We ended up with, I think, 7 guys injured at wideout this year. So by the time we got to the bowl game this year, we were playing a tight end at flanker and an ex-halfback at split in, and so we were kind of scrambling right there. The thing that kept our offense going, kept us afloat, was the great play we had right here. You can kind of see the difference in '98, what we did with old Whalens on this one play right here, we were 8 for 8, pretty good numbers, but we didn't throw it near as much. And of course this year, we came back, we were 63%, but we threw it 35 times. This one right here is kind of the basis of the thing. It's Y-stick, and everybody kind of runs a version of that. I'll go over ours again here. You know, pretty much the same numbers over both years right there on that. But I think the big difference was just the combination of these 3 routes is very difficult for people to cover. And, you know, it's just kind of a staple that we're going to do against everybody. We feel good about it because we feel like we can, if we don't know what to call, we're going to call one of these 3 things right here. Our quarterback was a rookie this year and brand new, and he'd get into games and he didn't always check us into the right plays like we want him to, but he damn sure would get us in these 3 plays. He knew that. And so these are things that you can kind of hang your hat on, and they're just what we do best at UK. With that, I'll just kind of start drawing these things up, if you don't mind. And y'all, if you got any questions, just slow your hands. The first one is Y cross. Everybody see this okay? And I'll take you through our base set. Here, the first thing we teach all the time, I know this is a one-back clinic, but we always start out teaching 2 backs. You can run this either way. When we run out of 1 back, we'll stick him over here in the slot, but mainly we got the halfback back here. That would be our H right there. We put it in the slot. We like this from the shotgun. You can do it either way. Our fullback's right there, our Y is right there, and our Z's right there. And we don't flip our sets in Kentucky. We stopped doing that when they moved the hash marks in. Chris Hatcher was playing quarterback for us the year we did that, and his percentage went up about 5 or 10% from doing that. And I think the reason for it is because I think these kids that play over here, if you try to flip the sets, you're also having to flip the routes that they have to run, and you're flipping the little nuances of each route for them. When we thought about doing that in 1993, Coach Morris used to work for Raymond Berry at the Patriots. Played for him in the Super Bowl and coached for him there too. And Raymond was out of coaching that year, and so a guy came in my office one day and said, "You want to go visit with Coach Berry?" And I said, "Yeah." So we went in. We told old Reinhardt Mike we were going to see the Broncos, but we went out there and stayed at Raymond's house. And where's he at? Evergreen? Place like that.
West Golden.
Yeah, Golden. And so we sat there, and his wife cooked all the meals for us, and Coach Berry brought out all of his old films from the Colts, all those days. We sat there for 2 days just having a clinic on receiving. And it was great. And at one point, we started talking. I told him I was thinking about not flipping the sets. And so he drew up, he looked at our base set right there, and he said, "Well, here was our base set with the Colts." For those of you guys who are like me and old enough to remember this, he says, this was me, and this was Jimmy Orr, and that was John Mackey, and this was Lenny Moore, and this was Alan Amici, and one of those other guys back here, and that was Johnny U. He said, and that was Brown Right, and that was our set. And he said every year during training camp, he said we never ran Brown left. We always ran Brown right. And so then Raymond, who's a SMU ex from here, would come back right out here in this stadium they're building. He's got the old films of old Ownby Stadium out there, and he would run every one of his routes. And he'd have 3 ways to run routes. For instance, a quick out like that would look something like that on his little chart. A slant might look like this, that, and then that. But he had 3 ways to run every route, because the guys he played in the old NFL in those days, they only had 12 teams, and so you saw them twice a year. And after so many years, those guys knew everything there was to know about you. And he said they just ran Brown left. And Jimmy Orr did the same thing over here on this side, and he would come back and he'd go out there in Ownby Stadium and he'd run all of his routes with no ball and nobody else around for like 2 months. in the off season. That would be his routine. He'd just go out there and run through every route, all 3 deals. He brought out the old wristbands. He had these old tape wristbands he used. He had each route written on there in a fine point, ballpoint pen, so it wouldn't get washed out by weather. But every one, and it's like little reminders. He could look on his wrist and remind himself that, well, I ran the slant this way last time, I want to run it this way this next time. And so he'd come out and he'd choreograph that thing, and then he'd go up to Baltimore and get with Johnny U, and then they would start just throwing the ball. He would run the routes, and Johnny would throw the ball to him. And they had it all, every route down, choreographed, and he said that just being able to work from the left side really made him an effective receiver. And he said about every other year they'd go to training camp, and Weeb Eubank, who was the coach of the Colts in those days, and later on he was the coach of the Jets, and he went through this whole thing with the Jets too when they had Joe Namath there and they won the Super Bowl. After Weeb moved over there, they did exactly the same thing. Didn't change anything. You know, this was Don Maynard and that was George Sauer. And his point was that he could be so precise with all his routes, and his quarterback knew exactly where he was going to be, that he could deliver the ball right on time, and that he had his hand positioned exactly right when he turned for the ball. And then about every couple of years during training camp, Weeb would come in and he'd tell Johnny and Jimmy Orr and Raymond that they were gonna have Brown left this year. And so they'd flip everybody over, and Raymond would be over here, and Jimmy would be over here, and the tight end would move over, and the backs would switch, and they just felt like they should have Brown left that year. And he said we'd go through about 2 or 3 days of camp, and he said I'd be dropping balls because I didn't have my steps down the way I did out of Brown right, and Jimmy'd be dropping balls. And so after 2 or 3 days of doing this, Johnny Unitas would go into Weeb Eubank and talk him out of doing it. And then they'd leave it alone, they wouldn't mess with it. And then about 2 years later, they'd go repeat the whole process. But his point was that receivers can learn one side better than they can try and flip and learn both sides. He said now for variety, what they did was they had like a flip. They'd take Jimmy and put him over here in the slot. So that was their variety set right there. But basically they had a pretty damn good offense. And the reason they did is because they could execute, and that's still what counts. In any way you want to do it, any way you want to flower it up with one back or any of that kind of stuff, if you can execute, you can win. If you can't execute on offense, you're going to get your ass kicked. And so his point to me was that I ought to try this, because he felt like our receivers would become so adept at playing one side or the other that you really couldn't replace that practice time that you'd have to do when you flip them. And you know, if you look back at that chart I put up there to begin with, if you look between 92 and 93, there's a dramatic increase in the percentage, and it's kind of stayed that way every year. So we don't flip our sets. We have right sets. Our tight end's always on the right. Our split end's always on the left. We will flip this guy right here, and we'll flip this guy right here. But other than that, we pretty much are going to be X, Y, and Z across, no matter what set you look at. So at any rate, getting back to Y cross here, this is the first thing we teach it out of. And we're going to take and block this thing pretty basically. We're going to be big on big, or man on man, or whatever you want to call it. I'll tell you, I'll draw like a 4 look here. You know, we kind of look at hash marks a lot, decide where those guys are. But as far as the protection, we're a man team. We're going to be man to zone. Now you can be either way, and some people try to do both. I just think if you're going to throw it 45, 50 times a game, like we're going to try to do, then you have to be accountable. This guy right here has to know he's got to whip his ass. That's what it comes down to. We're going to snap it back here. He's going to take his drop, and 50 times a game we're going to have a street fight here. And they're in that street fight. We got 5 guys, and we're hoping that they only got 4. And if they bring more down, we got some things we can do. But at any rate, for most of our offense, we're going to get a 4-man rush, and we're going to have 5 people to block it with. And we figure if we can win that street fight all the time, then we got a pretty good offense. And basically, the way we teach pass protection is we go out there and we
Coach Morris teaches all the fundamentals and the techniques, and I know y'all want to talk to him about that each year, and he'll do a great job with you. But the biggest thing we do every day is just one-on-one against our good on good, our D lineman against our O lineman. And we film it individually, and we know at the end of halfway through the spring, usually if we can put that camera on and we've got that from behind shot of that one-on-one technique we're teaching, we got 5 guys that can win that thing for 3 or 4 seconds, then we got an offense. Until we get to that point, we don't have an offense. That's really important to us, and so we're a man scheme, and we're going to spend most of our time. Now, obviously, there's times when people are going to twist on you and do things where your man scheme has to turn into zone, and we switch off and all those kinds of things. We got little calls for them. But our main scheme is that we're going to try and lock up the big guys on the big guys and the backs on the linebackers as much as possible. We'll also lock up a back and a tight end on the 2 backers, and we'll also hot some. But the main part of it, the first thing we teach is just this set right here, and we're going to block it like that. Now the easiest way to do that, this is so simple we don't even do it anymore, but the way we used to do it, Dan Lounsbury's sitting right back over there. Dan taught me this when I went to Carver's Cove in 1986. I was looking for an easy way to teach this. All we did was number them off on both sides. I think this is the way Mouse did it, right? Where you got it. But we just made it, for our high school kids, we just made an assignment that the guards always had 1, the tackles always had 2, and the backs always had 3. And then we just put up every set, and we numbered it off, and that's the way we did it. Now, Coach Morris teaches it more, just we recognize the fronts, and obviously we, in the SEC, we got a little better level of sophistication in terms of the linemen we're dealing with. But I still think that's still one of the things we go back to all the time whenever we get somebody throw some curveball at us that we're not sure what to do. We're just going to, all right, who's 1, who's 2, and who's 3. That's what I think about it. Who's 0? And the center has to decide that. The other thing I like about this is that our center makes the calls. Our quarterback doesn't have to get involved in the line calls. And I think there's probably some good things about that, but I think there's also some drawbacks in terms of how effective the quarterback can be, because he's only got 25 seconds. He's got to make a lot of decisions real fast, and if you speed up about a third or half of that time with him trying to determine the line call for you, then you take away from the time he can spend on these guys here and here. And we spend an awful lot of time with our quarterbacks teaching them that. We want them to look left to right and then back twice on every play. We give out a coverage call. He calls out the coverage every time so that I know that what he's seeing. We go up and we call 0 or call 1. In this case right here, we probably call 4. He'll just say 4-4. And I'm looking out there at the coverage, and he's looking at the coverage, and that's how we kind of stay on the same page. But Y cross is nothing more than the old BYU route that's made probably 100 of their tight ends All-Americans. It's made a couple All-Americans for us. Our X is usually our fastest guy, and it wasn't that way this year, but we're getting back to it this year coming up. This is one of the few years it wasn't true. We're going to attack that corner, and we are going to let him read the coverage. Usually he's going to run a fade or an up. But if this safety's down, we'll also give him the freedom to run a skinny post. But the most important thing he's got to do is speed deep. That's the one thing that can never be compromised. He can never slow up, and he can never get held up. Because he's going to be the #1 look. That's who we're going to peek at first. And our quarterback knows that if he's got single coverage out here, then he really becomes the #1 throw. If we got double coverage on him, then it's just a peek. You know, if it's done, you come up to the line of scrimmage, you look out here, and maybe this is a 2 look on this side. So you think, well, it's not going to be there. But we'll still peek at him in case that guy falls down or something. But that's the first place we're going to look. All right, we've got all these guys in here locked up. We're checking with the backs, and then we're going to run what we call a shoot route with H or an option route with H. And then we've got a check and what we call a swing with F. Then we're going to take Y. He's going to get the best release he possibly can. Fastest release. And we'll let him flex right here. We'll open it up. We'll run it with a third wide receiver a lot of times. We'll run it from a tight end spot. Our kid this year loved running from tight. He every time we get games, I'd call that out of open, and he'd come over the sideline and say, let me run it from tight. I can get there faster. So it just depends on what your kid can do in terms of release. The other thing I think is kind of a minimum assignment is if your kid can't run 4.8, don't run this play. And that's held up from Copperas Cove High School through the NAIA, NCAA Division II, and the SEC. If we got a guy that runs 4.8 right there, he can run this play. If he can't run 4.8, he can't run this play. But you go inside of Sam and over the top of Mike. That's the non-negotiable part of this for the tight end. Those two guys right there. He's going to go inside of Sam, over the top of Mike. If he reads a man-type coverage, then when he gets here to about 7 yards, he's going to make it a little more vertical, and he's going to stick it and then start on this angle. If he reads zone, then it's going to be more the way I drew it the first time. He's just going to work his way through there, getting over the top of Mike, and then heading in this angle right here. He gets right over the ball. He's generally about 10 to 12. And that's the first place we allow him to hook up if he's open. As he gets to the center line, he can find the dead area. He gets here to the hash mark, he's usually about 15 to 17. If he ran out of bounds over here, and we throw an awful lot of them out here by the numbers, he'd be about 22. So that's the angle you want to take with it. The best way to do it, you know, when you're first teaching is just go out there and put some cones down and all along here and just show him the angle he's got to run and tell him once he crosses the ball, he can hook up anywhere he wants to. As soon as he finds a void, then he's going to settle up, show his numbers to the quarterback, and be ready for the ball. He's the number 2 receiver on this, usually, but he's usually the guy that's going to get the ball, too. All right, the number 3 guy is the back underneath, and then we tell him what we do is we go backside. On the backside, we look at this guy's ability. If we have real fast guys, then we'll go 12, cut to the post, and then sit it down in a post curl kind of deal. If we got guys that aren't as fast like we do here now this year, we got bigger guys now that don't run quite as fast, and we'll just push it to about 15 and kind of run a curl. I think that little post move right there is pretty effective, but you got to have a guy that can run pretty good in order to make it that way. So we'll do that. All right, the quarterback regression, as I've already gone through, is peak, 1, 2, backside. And then we'll also tag this with H option. If we say H option, what we do is peak, and that's mainly a pre-snap deal. And then we're going to read it 1 to the option route, 2 to the tight end, backside. So it's the same. It looks the same on film, but it's 2 different ways to read it. And it turns into a, you know, really a good football play. Okay. Questions about that one? Okay.
Each option is always going out.
H option, Brent, he's going to go, he's got the freedom to go either way. What we do is we look at this kid right here and we see what he can do. We've had a kid the last couple of years who's been really good at it. And so what we got to with him was he would always break the first couple out. And then when he was ready to break inside, he'd come back and tell the quarterback on the sideline that he was going inside. And that way it keeps us from making, because he was one of those guys who could get up there and give a little double move, and we didn't want to fool the quarterback. So we would do that. We'll also chip with him. We've done some stuff like that. If you get a blitz where you got to change this off right here, we'll come up and chip the outside guy and then kind of drift and catch the ball after he chips. That's the way we handle the blitz on H option. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. that play right there is the one I really like. The other thing we'll do is we'll cross the backs underneath on it, and that's pretty effective. We'll do it off play action. We'll fake the draw. Fake the draw in here. We'll take this guy like he's going to block that guy, run him there, leak the fullback out here. All the reads still end up the same. You still got the vertical, you still got the Y cross, still got the backside. It's still 1, 2, 3, like that. But it's a pretty effective way if you've got a linebacker who's really getting a lot of depth right here trying to wall your tight end. And we just fake this draw at him right here, which is a play we run a lot. We get him to bite, now the tight end gets over the top, and we just work it like that. So it's really a great all-purpose route. Now the next two are quick stuff. I'm going to start with the zone route, which is Y stick, because you really got to throw this before you can throw the other one. Again, you can run this several ways. The best way to do it is out of one back. But you'll see it on the film. We'll run it out of two back also. Our H will be there. What we're looking for is zone coverage on this. Some sort of zone. Maybe a roll or whatever. But we're going to take a 1 long, 2 short drop with the quarterback. Just 3-step. We're going to take Z now and attack. If it's a roll type coverage, he's going to run a fade. If it's a single up type coverage, then he's going to run a up. We're going to free release the F and the Y, and they kind of work in conjunction. The tight end is going to take an inside release. He's going to set after 3 steps, and then he'll pivot off his right foot and work back outside. Our fullback is going to release right now to the shoot route. He's just really all along the line of scrimmage and expecting the ball, and he's the first guy we're going to look at. We're going to throw it there first and there second. And on the back side, we're just running a vertical with X. We're going to take H, and we're going to run a slant. If he doesn't get the ball, then he turns it into a slant return. This play is really, I imagine everybody in here runs some version of it. It's really a great play. We set our tackle inside, and he's got a little depth, and he's going to work it more like a deep drop play, even though it's a 3-step. With our linemen now, they've got the same assignments, but what we're going to do is we're going to cut with this left guard, and we're going to have the same assignments over here, but we want the first 2. So we're going to sift with these guys, and we're going to cut with the tackle. So that the center and this guard are trying to set fairly firm. They don't want to give up much ground. The tackle is going to set inside. He's going to take the first 2 of those guys. The first one of those guys that comes, he's going to cut him. What we're trying to do is you want to clear this throwing lane right here, and you want to clear this throwing lane right here with those 2 guys. Now, variations of the deal. Last year we didn't have him, but in '98 we did. We got a kid here that, if you got a guy that can run a slant, and he's a pretty good player, pretty good sized kid, this really makes this play more effective. We've got this kid back. We lost him to an off the field injury last year, but he's really great at it. So what we'll do is, instead of going 1, 2, 3 like that, sometimes we'll reverse this. And we'll read here first, here second, And that's about as far as you get, because one of those two is always going to be open. We don't change anything about the play, except the quarterback will look over at the F, and he'll tell him to check. So instead of free releasing, he'll check that Sam for us before he goes. And then it's still the same drop, the same set, but now he knows he's going to try and work this slant first, because a lot of times, if you're hitting them on this right here, what you're going to end up hitting is the Sam jumping hard, the Mike having to go hard. You may get the safety down some, which we got another answer for that. But at any rate, you end up with that Willie backer or the nickel back lined up on one of your guys who's a really good receiver, and he's killing them on this little slant right here. So a lot of times you just want to go in there, or particularly early in the game, and just throw that. We give the quarterback freedom to throw over the top here or over the top here if he gets coverage down. And you know, it's just a heck of a play. It's about 66%, 2 touchdowns. We threw it 58 times this year, completed 38 of them, and that's with new people. You can run it from the shotgun if you want to. We did it a lot this year from the shotgun. The quarterback just catches the ball and sets his feet, still the same time. Good questions?
What's the depth on the play?
He's going to be 4 to 5 yards. We don't really talk about depth much with him. We just talk about release and 3 steps. And what we do, a lot of people run this thing like particularly in the NFL, it's real popular to run it like this, where they just turn him out immediately and throw it. But we've kind of found that if we get him in here like this, he kind of threatens that Mike linebacker with that little hook inside and then breaks back out. It's a little more effective. And we've done it both ways. In fact, 2 years ago in '98, we gave our tight ends the option to run it either way. And as we got into the season, they didn't like running it with the outcut. They ran it with a little return every time. Coach?
Yeah, Chris talks about that you bring your H in to protect, and this trying to get him out. You keep him out no matter what, or are you going to?
Yeah, this year we've got a little more experience. We've done different things with it. You can set him in here and have him check up on that Willie. 2 years ago, the first year when we had Couch, we had him check. In other words, one of those 2 guys was going to check. If we were going to, eyes were going to be here first, we check on this side. Eyes were going to be here first, and we check on that side. In '98, we got so we didn't check at all, and we just had Couch read it, and that's probably what we'll do this year. This past season, like I said, we lost that kid, and so we didn't run it quite as much out of this set. We ran a little more out of trips, and we ran a little more out of 2 backs. So whenever we run out of 2 backs, all you do is it looks like this. Now he's going to check up automatically, and then he just runs a little circle there late, and then he's still got the same thing going over here. So obviously out of 2 backs, it's a read to the strong side all the time. Another good effective thing to do is bring this guy here in fly motion, and then let him push, because you create that little soft grassy area right there to throw it in. And we like to do that particularly early in games. You know, one of the things this play does that we've always done with it, we started doing it at Iowa Wesleyan when I was there, and when we did it there, we mainly just threw it to F all the time, because all we were trying to do was that was our best runner. We just want something where the quarterback went 1 long, 2 short, set his feet, and threw the ball to him right as he was clearing that tight end's butt right there. And we always try to do something to get this corner to soften on this side. And that's really something that gets overlooked, I think. It's really easy to do. It's an easy throw, and you got your best player along, really basically turning up on one of their corners. And then, of course, if they start running a backer out there to cover him, then you just come back inside and wide. You're going to be able to throw that all night.
Hal, you mentioned what makes the decision on whether you're going to go under the center or shotgun in this play? Is it by quarterback or what?
Yeah, it's just pretty much
feel?
by quarterback. Yeah, by feel. We don't have a set rule or anything. Couch liked it underneath. Bonner likes it from shotgun.
So.
You know, I just think it's what they do best. You know, Bonner's a little shorter kid. Couch was real tall, and he can take that first step and see real good. But Bonner, when we do it underneath, we'll do it underneath like early in games with Dusty, just to kind of dummy up some other stuff that we're scripting for, and you know, he does it just as well that way. Couch, we did it with him out of the shotgun, particularly out of no backs, and he did it just as well out of the gun. So I don't think it really matters. I think it's what they prefer. Anybody else? Well, that was Y stick, boys. All right, here's Y corner. Now, this is the complementary route, and this is one we had a hell of a year with this route. I'm gonna draw it up out of that same ace set for you, but you'll see it out of a bunch of different sets on the video. We had 11 TDs on this route this year. 11 TDs. Our 26 touchdown passes, 11 of them came on this. And I think the reason is because we had thrown, the year before, we'd thrown Y stick, you know, we were like 75%, and we had not thrown this particular route very much. And so what everybody started doing was, at least on this side, manning this guy up, and then trying to be able to get two people involved on stopping that little route right there by bringing getting a safety involved. And so, of course, our number one choice to that is always just to go over the top of Z some. But like I was saying, we didn't have real good luck with our wide receivers this year. We weren't getting over the top with Z a lot of times. And so this play just turned into the play of choice. And our quarterback got so he could really read those guys right there, what they were doing. And he'd get us out of the zone play and into the man play pretty quick. Anytime we felt like we were getting kind of a man, it didn't have to be all man coverage, but just a man look with his strong safety. Maybe a matchup zone where he was too shallow, or maybe he was too far inside right here on his alignment. Any of those kinds of things. A lot of them would put the safety in here, bring him down, let the Mike work that way, and leave the Sam there, and you know, try to take care of the back with an end or something. But at any rate, he did a really nice job of reading where that strong safety was in this area. And then anytime he got out of position, boy, he'd hit him with this thing. And so I think that's why we ended up with it, throwing it a lot more, and then we ended up with it being pretty damn effective. We had, like I said, 11 touchdowns on it. But at any rate, what you do is it starts out kind of looking the same way. We're still going vertical over here. We're still going slant here. The blocking scheme's still the same. We still cut the same people. All that stuff I just showed you about Y sticks the same. What we do with Y, though, is he's going to take the best release he can get. He's going to get right to that point where he normally cuts off his right foot to turn inside. And he's just going to make a little head fake. It's not even noticeable on film, but we coach it a lot in one-on-one. And then he's going to plant off his left foot, and he's going to break to the corner. So you've got like this little bitty quick corner that's like 3 steps. And then out here, we're going to take Z, and he's going to start like a fade, and then he's coming right underneath him. And if he reads zone, he's going to sit down in here, and then he can return it if he wants to. But he's going to come to about where that tackle is before he does that. If it's man-to-man, he's just going to gain ground and keep going. Then the F, we'll either check him or hot him, either way, but he's going to run a quick swing. And so you got this, you know, you get them playing that other one where these guys are kind of squatting on that tight end, and then all of a sudden, bang, he's out here and he's in this grassy area. You've got the attention of this corner right here, particularly against man coverage. You've got him to bite inside. You vacated somebody to cover the fullback right there real quick, and so off 3-step drop, you end up with this really quick little read right here that's like this. It's 1, 2. The closer you get to the goal line, we'll tell them to reverse it. We'll go 1, 2 like that. Because you know, you get down in the red zone, you want to try, if you can dump it to that back out there on that little quick swing, you do it. And then we'll run the same thing from, like I said, we like this play a lot from the shotgun here. When Couch did it, he would run this one from the shotgun and run the other one underneath. Bonner would do them both ways. So again, it's just preference. And we run so much shotgun anyway, it doesn't affect us.
Now,
Yeah, Mike.
is the 4-8 still hold up tight end, run that route? You have to be able to run 4-8.
I think you can have a little slower guy with these last two. I know the kid we had our first year at Kentucky was a kid that couldn't break 5 flat. In fact, we moved him defensive tackle after the Waylands kid came on. And he was up until he got hurt that halfway through that 97 season, he was a leading tight end receiver in the nation. Most of it was off these 2 plays. So I think the 4-8 for the Y cross you got to have, but for this, I think you can have a big guy that can use his body, and he can get open on this too. It's really not a deep route. It's just a 3-step cut and 3 or 4-step cut. Make a little stick. Mainly, you want to do it again. It's better if you let this guy call it. I call these when we get in the red zone myself, but most of the time in the open field, the shots you'll see on film here are the quarterback checks. And it's good companion plays. We just go Y stick or Y corner. And your basic thought process, if you get zone, you're going Y stick. If you get man, you're going Y corner.
What kind of angles your tight end coming out when he gets to the corner? Is he working a landmark or a depth? Or is it just
Yeah, if you're working this, say, from the 10-yard line, then he's looking at the back flag of the end zone. But now what'll happen some, so he tries to keep that angle. We practice it down on that end of the field, but then we'll run it anywhere, and so we tell him to keep the same angle. But what'll happen a little bit with it is if they'll play you, we'll allow him to break it like this too. You know, sometimes the quarterback will flatten the throw and carry him to the outside. We want him to cut it at that angle though, and just let the ball carry you back here if he wants to throw it underneath.
Doesn't matter which hash you're on, you run it from either hash.
Shoot, yeah, we'll run it from the left hash and have trips into the boundary. I think there's a shot on this film of us doing that. No, we don't really care.
You let him go to the wide side with it.
No, we're running the short side too. It doesn't matter. I think since they moved the hash marks in, you got enough room to do that. I think if we had the old hash marks, it'd be hard. But no, in fact, we've had some pretty effective plays running into the boundary. Particularly dropping it off to the back here if the corner sinks and they got everybody else playing over here on trips.
Do you motion your Z or pass your Z on that or anything?
Yeah, we'll do that. Larry, we'll do several things with Z. I'll get into that's a good question. I'll get into that.
How many steps does he take on that right there?
It's just a 1-step slant. He'll work it. If there's a guy pressing him, he'll work his foot fire and then go. But we don't really want him more. If it's just a zone off kind of deal, he's just a come out of your stance 1 step and then go. Because we still like for that corner to hesitate and bite a little bit if we can get him to. Another thing we'll do is we'll bring him in here in a wing and run it from that. We'll line him up out here like you're talking about, Larry, wide and motion him to that. We'll flex this guy somewhat and then bring him to a wing and do it. We'll take him out of the play completely. Put him over here. And when we do that, we run that little arc with him that we throw the arc screens off of. Or we'll line him up here and motion him over there like that. So it's a pretty versatile play in terms of what you do with Z.
How does the age change? Does he still run his return? Goes on stick? Slide?
Yeah, he does the same thing. He's going to go slant. If he gets in here past that backer heading towards the Mike backer, he's going to sit it down and get out of there. That way, by the time, if you get man-to-man, theoretically, you're going to get walled right here. He's going to hit into him, return it out here. About the time he does that, your Z's coming across. Anybody else have a question? But it's a great little play. We had 3 touchdown passes on it in 98. We only ran it 8 times. Should have called it more. 99, we ran it 35 times. We had 11 touchdown passes on it, so it's a pretty good play. Great play in the red zone. I'll show you. You'll see some shots of this. I'll draw it up for you. The way we do it on the goal line is pretty good. combination. And I don't know, I imagine, somebody's talking about mesh around. Who's talking about mesh around here? Anybody? Yeah. This is a great combination of that on the goal line. Get down here. Inside the 5. We'll do it out of 2 backs. X. Usually a bigger Z right here. We got a kid, like I said, we got a kid that played tight end. We moved him to flanker. He's just Robert Williams, Mike. That's where he played. Well, Mike recruited a hell of a guy there. Hell outside here when I got there. Hell of a player. But anyway, you get down here, you're in the gun. You know, a lot of people want to go that 6 across zone bullshit. They kind of get everybody involved right there, and of course they got to stop your run game some way. You know, at any rate, they kind of end up in this wad out here kind of deal. So those of you in the SEC, y'all know, you know, if you're playing Tennessee, it looks like this. But anyway, you end up with them in this little wad right here. And so what our quarterback will do is he'll come up and he'll look for the run first. If we can just run it in, we'll snap it here and away we go, you know. If they're playing in here tight enough with these backers, and at safety, usually they're going to have somebody else besides these 3 backers involved in the run. It's going to be one of these safeties, or maybe sometimes both of them. Then he's going to check to this, and we'll take that Y and release him. He's heading right there to that corner. We'll take this Z, and he like foot fires 3 or 4 times right there. He's not going to be very fast getting out of there. He's got to buy time because normally he's out here coming underneath. And of course our F, we'll block it up on the backside, so now we can handle anything off the backside on us. We'll do that, and then we'll take this F and swing him. And so down here, it really turns into this. But the guy we got, in fact, we had 2 or 3 touchdown passes on this year. That third guy right there, they really run out of people to cover him with, because it happens so fast to him. And we'll let him, we tell him to work underneath everybody, but it doesn't always work out that way. We just don't correct him a lot of times. You know, so these backers will get so lost on the thing that a lot of times they got to go over the top of them. But there's this big hole right here in the middle of the field that you can get that guy into. So you got a real quick look right here. Obviously, if you get them outflanked right now, you want your best back carrying the ball to that flag. If they cover him, now they got hell getting back here to this guy because you probably got one of your better receivers running there. And if they figure it out and smell it out and they zone off on you, then they're probably going to leave that little area right there in the middle of the field open. You just come right back to that. And so that's the way you run it inside the 5-yard line. And again, we run that out 2 backs as we get there. You can do it out of 1 back, but it'd be just as effective. We'd probably use one of our bigger H's, a tight end type guy, and put him in there and go ahead and leave him in the block, and then work him late. Let him slip off to the outside late down there. But we do it 2 backs, so it just depends on what kind of setup you got. Anybody got a question on the goal line play? Yeah. One more there. You got a pointer? Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. Here's Z, Y, F, H, X. We got a little flex out of our Y right here. Quarterback in the shotgun. Pretty good shot here, throwing it out to the numbers. Here we're going underneath Sam over the top of Mike. We're going to pressure hard right here. He went ahead and took the post cut because the safety's down. We're going to get the throw out here to Y. You'll see why this kid made All-American right here. Great effort. Yeah, we've got, you know, Dusty didn't have a Tim Couch kind of arm now. He's more of a spot thrower. Here it is against the Bulldogs. So, pretty good job. You see the option route coming out here, taking it inside this time. Here it is against Tennessee. We've got a man look. Man free. Great safety they got there. Thought he had a beat on it right here. Probably should have gone post right here with X. There's that big guy I was talking about right there. So. Here it is with a chip. We've got H option call this time, but they come up and blitz, so we're going to chip him and then just dump it off. Still LSU. Basically could have thrown to any of them on that one, but the chip was, he had the option route call, so that was the easiest thing to do. Here we're going to hit the option underneath in zone. Yeah, it should be going to post right here, not a good read by X. Here's the throw over the top of the X. Safety down.
So you'll always flex the tight end with wide draw?
No, not always. We've got it flexed here pretty good. We kind of leave it up to him. Unless we're trying to do something with it scheme-wise for, you know, set up another play or something, but we'll leave it up to him. Sometimes he'll have that flex you saw right there. Sometimes it'll be shorter like it is here. We pretty much get in the game, and he decides who he's got to work on. Like, for instance, here, Georgia decided to flex a lot of man coverage. So he knew if he came out about this far, he could get singled up on the safety. And then they take the free down. Now, this is a tag we put in with it. Pretty good one. It's been good to us through the years. After you've thrown it a few times, you just tag Z on a post, and then you put X on a fade route all the time when you do that. And then your progression now becomes Y to Z. Okay, here's the backside against zone. We're going to throw it to Z right here. Good thing to do on this is after you've thrown it a little bit, they start really doing this kind of stuff to you right here. And see how they got the safety down taking X or really walling Y. You know, just tell your quarterback to go backside. When we do that, we just tell him to peek over here at Y and then come back to Z, just like you would if you called Z on the post. It's a great thing to do. We probably do it every couple of weeks during the season. Usually get a play about like this out of it. Okay, the next one I believe here is Y. Yeah, this is Y. This is Y stick. Here's against Indiana. Against now we got this is all, most of these are checked. Here's some shotgun. Now we've got, here's H in here tight. We're gonna let him account for the Willie. We flip the Z over here. There's the little arc. He's run the little arc. He's going vertical. He's checking. Here's the quick shoot route by our S. And here's the little stick route by Y. Again, just catch it and get straight up the field. It's not really fancy. It's just effective. Got a cut block right there. Should be cut blocking with a guard on the backside. We didn't have time. Okay, here it is out of Ace. Well, I drew it up for you, except that we're in the shotgun. We're going to have a slant right here. Shoot, stick, over the top, over the top. Here's the cut block by the left guard. You can see right here. Again, we get soft coverage. That's why you want to look at this guy first. See, this is a great example right here. Just getting the ball to him quick, letting him run with it. It's against Arkansas here. Not a great route by the tight end here, but he ends up walling that guy for us. So we get the nice easy throw, get our best runner with the ball in the flat. Here it is against pressure. Do a good job sifting right here with the tackle late. And good job working with the tight end. We give him a little freedom right here. You watch, they're going to wall him here, so actually he does the route opposite right here. He breaks out and then comes back underneath. And we give them the freedom to do that. There's an awful lot of talk on the sidelines about what they're going to do in these situations. And this is a pretty good example of it.
Rewind that one.
Uh-huh.
H on the out.
I'm sorry?
You have H on the out. Is that a call to play for white from underneath here, or why is H running your out route?
I think it's a busted assignment.
Or is it because of the inside man?
No, we're not that complicated. I just think he fucked up.